This happened 2 summers ago while I was on a solo road trip through the Southwest. I had been driving for hours through the vast desert landscape, enjoying the solitude and the breathtaking views. It was nearing dusk, and I decided to find a place to camp for the night. My GPS showed a small, remote campground a few miles off the main highway, so I decided to give it a try. The road leading to the campground was unpaved and winding, but I eventually made it to the site. It was completely deserted, with only a few old picnic tables and fire pits scattered around. There was no sign of any recent visitors. The isolation was both calming and a little unnerving. I set up my tent, started a small fire, and settled in for the evening. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the temperature dropped quickly. I wrapped myself in a blanket and watched the stars emerge, enjoying the peacefulness. Around 10 p.m., I decided to turn in. I put out the fire, zipped up my tent, and crawled into my sleeping bag. The night was perfectly still, and I quickly fell asleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by a sound. It was faint, but distinct, the crunch of gravel underfoot. I lay still, straining to hear. There it was again, closer this time. Someone or something was walking around my campsite. My heart started to pound. I silently reached for the flashlight next to my sleeping bag and switched it on, illuminating the tent. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. There was no response, but the footsteps stopped. The silence was deafening. After a few minutes of tense waiting, I slowly unzipped the tent and shone my flashlight outside. The beam of light revealed nothing but the empty campsite. I stepped out, my senses on high alert. There were no signs of anyone or anything nearby, just my car parked a few feet away and the surrounding darkness. I walked around the campsite, flashlight in hand, looking for any clues. Then I noticed something odd. A trail of fresh footprints leading from the edge of the campsite to where my tent was. They were human, but what puzzled me was that they seemed to appear out of nowhere. There were no other footprints leading to or from them. A chill ran down my spine. I decided it was best to pack up and leave immediately. As quickly and quietly as I could, I dismantled my tent and loaded everything into my car. The whole time, I kept glancing around, half expecting someone to jump out of the shadows. Once everything was packed, I got into the car and locked the doors. I started the engine and turned on the headlights. As I pulled out of the campsite, my lights illuminated something that made my blood run cold. A figure standing at the edge of the trees. It was a man, dressed in tattered clothes, staring directly at me. His face was gaunt, and his eyes seemed to gleam in the light. I didn't wait to find out who he was or what he wanted. I floored the gas pedal and sped down the dirt road back to the highway. I didn't stop driving until I reached a well-lit gas station miles away. Shaking, I went inside to get a coffee and calm my nerves. The clerk noticed my state and asked if everything was okay. I told him about my encounter, and he just nodded knowingly. "You're not the first one to come in here with a story like that," he said. "That campground has been abandoned for years. Locals say it's haunted, but I think it's just a place where desperate people hide out. I never found out who that man was, or why he was out there in the middle of nowhere. But the memory of those footprints appearing out of nowhere, and that eerie figure watching me from the trees still haunts me. It was a reminder that sometimes the most frightening things aren't ghosts or supernatural beings, about the unknown dangers lurking in the real world.